Props helps companies build a culture of success. What we do is we build out a Twitter-like feed of who and what are driving progress inside your company. Anyone in the company could then engage their fellow employees and give props for doing exceptional work. When someone gets props, it surfaces up and displays throughout the TVs of your office, really recognizing the employees that are driving the progress inside your company and celebrating them for doing so. 34% of the workforce is now millennials. In the next 10 years, that workforce is going to be 75%. Companies are struggling to adapt to the environment of millennials, which want constant and instantaneous feedback.
In my experience working for several large companies, I remember going around the office and thinking that people are obviously doing great things and never really, maybe sometimes not knowing who a person is or not knowing the important things that they've been doing inside the organization. And that's, I think, one of the really great things that Props gives you is the ability to, one, get to know people inside of the organization that you may not otherwise know, and more importantly even actually knowing what they're working on and being able to kind of share in the celebration of whatever it is that they're accomplishing.
One of the biggest problems that we have here at RJ Metrics and that I've seen at a number of companies I've worked with is getting people recognition for the work they're doing as the company grows. Everybody cares a lot about our mission, everybody cares a lot about getting things done. It can be really tough to make sure that everybody who earns a shout out gets one, and making sure that people who are motivated by positive feedback loops are actually getting those loops on a regular basis. That's exactly what Props does for us. Props has become a really big deal internally because it's how people get recognized for the work they do on a day-to-day basis. This isn't a quarterly review or an annual review. It's not tied to compensation. It's about giving people a high five when they deserve it. It's about those little bits of work that people do that change the way our business runs every single day, but they might not otherwise get an opportunity to get recognition for. Props is the solution. One of the things that has continued to get harder as our team has grown is making sure that our departments don't become silos. It can be really, really tempting to have sales sit in its own little world and marketing sit in its own little world and engineering sit in its own little world. But what's really, really valuable is when those teams collaborate and when the same ideas are getting shared throughout and the same wins are being celebrated throughout. So one of the things that Props has allowed us to do is really cross-pollinate the success of the teams and build a culture of organizational success and not just departmental success. And Props has really become a common thread amongst all those departments for sharing those big wins. It matters to me that we build a culture of success here. And there are plenty of opportunities on an ad hoc basis to say congratulations or thanks to somebody, but making sure that people get props whenever they do a great job is a really, really hard thing. And props on the TVs on the walls, in our browsers, has really become a key piece of building a culture of success here because it means everybody can celebrate everyone's wins. One of the things that happens all the time now is that we add a new team member and it can be intimidating. There's a very large team, there are whole departments they might not get a chance to interact with that regularly. So Props has actually helped a lot because as they walk down the hallway in the office, they get to meet new people and see what they're working on without needing to go out to lunch with them or go and get coffee. Immediately you start to see who the big influencers are in individual departments and you have something to talk about with them. You have icebreakers because you know what they've worked on that day, and that's a really big deal. Every morning when I wake up and every night when I'm on my way home from work, I'm scrolling through the Props updates for the day. It's not just about what's on the TVs, it's about what has happened in the pulse of the business in the last 24 hours. What I'm able to do there is not just see who's done what, but what the team at the frontline level cares about and what they're supporting and promoting, and that gives me an insight into where the hardest work is being done and the biggest accomplishments are getting made. That matters in a big way. One thing that I'd say is true of every single team member here, and I think is true of most team members in most modern organizations, is that they care about impact. They want to know that the work that they're doing is actually influencing the company and influencing the customers of the company in a really big way. Props is a way to make sure that awareness about individual impact is known throughout the organization. And that matters to people on a day-to-day basis because it's motivating in the short term because you're getting high fives delivered, but it's also motivating in the long term because you know that the work you're doing is part of this bigger thing that is really going to move the needle in a big way for a lot of people. I have a soft spot in my heart for tools like Props that make my business a better place to be for a team member. And the more I can do to promote that sense of impact and awareness and a culture of success in my business, the more successful I'm confident my business can become. So that's why we bought Props, and that's why it's one of our most addictive tools in the office. Look, I think the reason people love Props so much is because Props is fun. You can inject your own personality into it. If something is a win that you've caused, you can personalize the way that looks on people's screens and on the TVs throughout the office. People want to use it. It is not a piece of enterprise software. It's something that is exciting and kind of in the ecosystem of things that people want to use on a day-to-day basis.